Okay, so in last session we covered various test levels and different type of software development methodologies. So we were left with few test types, few slides for from the last session. So today's session would be kind of very quick uh, session, just to cover whatever was left in module 2. If anybody has any question, he she can unmute and ask the questions. So today I'll be covering various test types, or maybe you can say the targets of testing. So if you talk about the major test types, there are basically four major test types in which you can divide your all the software testing activities. So the first test type would be functional testing, which tests the functionality of the software, like it is designed as per the requirements, or uh, it just checks whether the functional attributes of a software are being met. Then the second one comes is the testing the software product characteristic, like the non-functional testing. So in non-functional testing, uh, you so in non-functional testing, you basically test various characteristics, like how the software is performing, what's the response time of the software. So the characteristics which are related to the throughput, response time, or number of users, number of simultaneous users logging into a software or into a web portal. These are kind of testing that comes under non-functional testing. So there are various test types which will come into functional and non-functional, and I'll cover those in more detail later. So the third one that comes is testing of the software structure or architecture, and that is structural testing. So here it's more of kind of you can say white box testing. And then the last one that comes is testing related to changes, and that is more of confirmation and regression testing. So confirmation testing is when there is any defect, that defect get fixed, so you need to rerun the same test which got failed in the first cycle. So you need to rerun and confirm that that defect actually got fixed. So that is known as confirmation testing. And regression is kind of testing which is done to ensure that the defect fix that was done by developer does not affect any of the previous existing working functionality. So whatever was working before should work even after the bug fixes and something some changes are done into the software. So testing related to changes, confirmation and regression testing come into that. So let's get into more detail of the functional testing. So functional testing considers the specified behavior of the software, like what the software does, and it's more of concerned about fulfilling just verifying whether software requirement specification or use cases, user stories are being met. So in previous development models, it was more of requirements based, and since now it's more of agile, so it's more of business process or user story based kind of requirement that you get nowadays. In most of the companies, you will get those kind of requirements. So functional testing basically tests the functionality, whatever was mentioned either in the requirements or in the business process or the user stories. Okay, so like take for example, you got a requirement if you are developing a web portal for online shopping. So the requirement says like there should be a filter uh, to filter out the electronic products based on the features, like say for example an audio system. So what kind of features does it support? Does it support Dolby Digital? Does it support five way surround sound or something like that? So these kind of features will be mentioned in the requirements, like this is my requirement. So I should be able to filter the product list in my e-commerce portal based on the uh, product feature. Or maybe I should be able to search the product based on the keywords. So these are the kind of requirements which go into requirement document, and then you have to verify your portal or your deliverable, your software, according to those specification software requirement specifications. So this kind of testing is known as functional testing, and it's more of requirements based. Then the other kind of testing which is involved into functional testing is uh, business process based. So in business process, it's more of end-to-end scenarios, like uh, how the end user will interact with the system or with the software, right? Like if there is a banking website, how will a person who has bank account will interact with the online internet banking? So in order to get business process based testing or business process based functional testing, you need to think from customers or end users point of view. So mostly the people who do user acceptance testing or business process testing, they kind of keep themselves into the customer shoes or end user. They think from end user perspective and try to figure out what will be the business scenarios that will be um, valid for that specific software or online portal or any banking website. Okay, so first one is requirements based, second is business process based. Any questions, anybody? Or all right, guys, you can unmute yourself if you want to ask the questions. Okay, I'll take it as no questions. So then the third point says requirements based testing uses a specification of functional requirements for the system as the basis of designing tests. So in requirements based testing, you basically take the functional requirement document or software requirement document as a basis to design your test cases, right? So anywhere when you design your test cases, the first thing that you ask for is the requirement specification. Where are the requirement specification? Or uh, yeah, let me take the question. Acceptance testing is how it is. Ramu, is it a question, or how is it related? I didn't get your question. Can you please type, you know, yeah, so I didn't get your question. You typed in some, short form. I didn't get that word. Yeah, okay. How acceptance testing is related to business process based testing. Okay, so usually if you uh, do the user acceptance testing, so in user acceptance testing, uh, mostly the scenarios that the tester tests uh, are the end-to-end scenarios, all or the business scenarios or the end user scenarios that will be performed from end user. Okay, so and there are certain business process scenarios that are tested before even before the user acceptance testing. So you can say during the functional testing as well, there are business process testing, there is business process testing done, as well as when you do user acceptance testing, you still do business process testing. For example, in user acceptance testing, suppose I'm testing an e-commerce portal. Okay, so in e-commerce portal, what it's suppose a shopping website, it's a shopping portal. So what all scenarios will the end user, or in user acceptance testing you will cover? The first and foremost scenarios that you will focus on is like user should be able to uh, log into your website or access your website, then he should be able to add shopping items into the cart, then he should be able to check out. So this is whole scenario. He should be able to check out, make the payment should be successful. After payment is successful, he should be redirected to the to your website saying payment is successful, and other details should be emailed to his email address, like shipping address and shipping details, how long it will take to ship the item to his uh, uh, shipping address. So this is one scenario that you can test in user acceptance testing. So this is the basic thing that should work from e-commerce shopping website. So similarly, if you are testing some other commercial application, so you can think of user scenarios which by which user interacts with those, like for example the banking website, if you say. So how the banking user will interact with internet banking. All right, am I clear? So business process testing is done in functional testing or system testing phase as well as in user acceptance testing. There is more focus on only on end user or business scenarios, rather than worrying about whether requirements specification document or all the functionality based on requirement has been met or not. uh, Nehal, can you please mute yourself? Yeah. All right, guys, am I clear? Any more questions? Ramu, am I clear? All right, so in the same example, uh, what you do is, yeah, Ramu, in the same example, like um, it would be kind of similar scenarios in business process or user stories. Like business process won't be in business process you will be maybe covering a short of all like in user acceptance testing you test from end to end. Okay, and in business process it's not necessary that all the software is being developed fully. Okay, so maybe 2-3 modules are being developed and you are testing business process which validate that all those integrated 3 modules are working. The business process, that is the business logic that is implemented into those 3 modules, is working fine. Is it clear now? Because user acceptance testing comes only after you have full software developed, tested, regression, um, everything done. So after that, user acceptance testing come. But business process testing can be started in between whenever you have 3-4 modules which implement the business logic are integrated. So you test business logic among those modules. All right. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So so business process based testing uses knowledge of business processes. So it describes scenarios involved in day-to-day business use of system. Okay. So like I already explained, like business process based testing will start in the functional phase itself. So if you have 3-4 modules tested which are integrated, you will test the business logic in those modules. And user acceptance testing, it will also cover the user scenarios or any user scenarios, but it will only come when end to end, when all the software is fully tested and you enter into different user acceptance testing phases. Okay. So the other uh, type of testing is testing of the software product characteristics, under which there are a lot of testing involved. That is, it is known as non-functional. And non-functional testing tests the characteristics of the software. Okay, like how fast the response is, what is the throughput, how many concurrent users can log in into the software or into the online portal. If 1,000 users are logged in at the same time, what is the response time you are getting? Okay, is the web portal or website very slow if there are large number of users accessing same module? All right, so these kind of performance related thing or throughput or the response related testing that you do for an application is known as non-functional testing. Okay, there are different type of non-functional testing, like performance, load, usability, and besides load there is stress testing is also done. So these type of which are related to response time, how fast the software works, throughput, are known as non-functional testing. So like I'll elaborate these non-functional testing a little bit. Like in performance testing, suppose you have online web portal. When you are trying to test the performance, you basically want, first of all, the most basic requirement to do performance testing is to make the requirements clear about the functional for performance testing. Most of the time when you gather the requirements or business analysts gather the requirements, they are not able to gather non-functional requirement very clearly. Okay, and that is the kind of very tricky and mm, very tricky point for the software testers whosoever is doing non-functional testing, because you don't have concrete requirement what exactly you need to uh, deliver, or what exactly is the performance that the end user or the stakeholders are looking at. So you have to make sure that requirements are clear. Like I'll take an example of an unclear requirement for non-functional testing. Suppose you got a requirement that system should respond within 5 minutes. So this is not a clear requirement. This because within 5 seconds you did not ask in what conditions it should respond within 5 seconds. Okay, so if there are any unclear requirements, you have to clarify, like, okay, system should respond within 5 seconds, so in what conditions, with how many users logged into a system or the online portal. Okay, so that makes your requirement more clear, that makes it more testable. So when you ask the stakeholder, system should respond within 5 seconds, okay, with how many users logged in simultaneously, he says okay, 20. So that is more testable. What you'll do is you will use any performance testing tool, JMeter or rational performance tester, to simulate 20 users on the web portal, and then you will check the response time, what the response time you are getting. So in performance testing or in non-functional testing, making requirements clear is the key to succeed. Okay, you will be able to test properly non-functional requirements only if the requirements are very clear. Okay, so this is the example of performance testing. So in performance testing, with 20 users logged in or 2000 users logged in into my e-commerce portal, I should be able, any user logged in should be able to get response for any query he submits within 5 seconds. So that is kind of performance testing. Then in load testing, what you tested is like you are simulating huge amount of data on the portal or on the server. Like uh, you are simulating 10,000 users on the e-commerce portal, or maybe millions of users on some directory server or something. So that is kind of load, you are loading the system with numerous amount of data. So that is, and then testing the behavior, how the system or how the software behaves, what is the throughput, if there is huge amount of data, and how does it handle that large amount of users or large amount of uh, data on the server. So that is more of load testing. So besides this, usability testing is also comes in non-functional, like how easy is it to use. You just test the software from end user's perspective and test how do you feel, like is it easy to use the software, is it easy to understand, is it easy to read the manuals and start using the software, or is it very complex even to understand the software. Okay, so these are the few non-functional testing that you can cover. There are many more. You can visit my blog and maybe uh, go through and read more about functional non-functional testing. Any questions? All right, so the third type of is there any tool for usability testing? uh, I haven't used, I'm not sure if there is any uh, tool available. If anybody has used any tool, please share it for usability testing. I don't think there is any tool available for usability testing, because you just need to test how easy is it to use, how are the manuals or installation manual design written, how is it to understand and use the software. So there are tools for accessibility testing, but that is not kind of usability thing. Okay, so the third one is testing of the software structure or architecture, and this is known as structural testing. So previous to maybe the functional testing is kind of white box testing, and structural testing is sorry, the first one, functional testing, is the black box testing, and the structural testing is the white box testing. Okay, it's also known as gray box testing. So in structural testing, basically you are testing the software structure or architecture, how it is designed internally and how the modules are different modules are communicating with each other and how they are integrated. So testing those, the internal features, looking into the internals of the software, and testing the structural component is known as structural testing. So it's known as white box testing. So in white box testing, uh, this tests the structure of the software, and it requires the knowledge of internal code. And basically you need to have good programming skills to do the white box testing, because there are a lot of programming knowledge required, like you need to write code from like JUnit code, or maybe uh, if you are testing unit testing in Java. So that's where you require good programming skills to do white box testing. So in white box testing, there are various techniques that are used for foundation level certification. You don't need to go through all the details of white box testing, but I would advise to uh, cover as much as you can, because I have all the articles present on my blog which covers line or statement coverage. Then you have decision coverage, condition coverage, and then multiple condition decision coverage and multiple condition coverage. Okay, so yeah, so Ramu has shared website usability tools which you guys can yep. I was not aware of any tools because I just did things manually. So I haven't used any tool for usability testing. Okay, so so in white box, like line coverage or statement coverage, it basically covers it just checks whether all the statements in the code that you are testing are being covered from the test cases that you designed. So if you are testing any module or any class, say, so in that class, if there are 100 lines of code, then if your test case has certain input values which cover all the 100 lines, then you say 100% line or statement coverage has been done. Similarly, in decision and condition coverage, you test various decisions, yes, no, and then in condition, um, different conditions are being covered or not. So these are not covered in much detail in foundation level syllabus. You can anyways go and try to understand, uh, because it these are provided in the link. So these will redirect to my blog, and you can anyways go and read in detail. If you guys will want, once I cover all the modules, I'll uh, cover these with the code and explain all these different type of white box testing techniques. All right, then comes testing related to changes. So testing related to changes, there comes confirmation testing and regression testing. So in confirmation testing is also known as retesting. So in confirmation testing, what you do is you make sure that the test cases that failed previously, when you executed when you execute any test case and it got failed, so and you found that it is a defect in the software and log a defect, so just whenever that defects get fixed, then you have to re-execute that test and make sure that it is passing now. Okay, so like you log a defect in bug tracking tool, developer fixes the defect against those failed test case, whichever defect you have logged in, and then once you get a fixed defect, you re-execute that same test case to make sure that uh, the defect has been fixed, and then you close the defect. So this type of testing is known as retesting or confirmation testing. You are basically confirming that the defect that you found in earlier release has been fixed now. Okay, our earlier cycle has been fixed in this cycle. And then comes regression testing. So in regression testing, you find out, like, whenever you raise a defect and the defect gets fixed, there are some code changes done by the developer to fix those defects. Okay, so you retest to make sure that the defect that you raised has been fixed, as well as whenever there are changes in the code, you also run a regression suite to make sure any surrounding functionality around that defect has not been affected. Because in most of the cases what happens is, like, if a developer fixes one defect, there are some surrounding issues related to the code changes that the developer has made. So that is why your regression suite is the main candidate for automation, because you have to keep executing regression suite if whenever there are any changes or any defect fixes done in the software. So if there are, say, in some module there are defect fixes done, so regression suite that surrounds that module has to be executed to make sure that there are no more defects introduced due to the code changes done. Okay, so the main intent behind regression testing is to ensure that any code changes made for software enhancements or configuration changes has not introduced any new defects in the software. Okay. So this is, and regression suite is the ideal candidate for automation because you have to execute it again and again. So if you automate regression suite, so whenever there are any changes, you just retest, or whenever there are any defect fixes, you just retest those defect fixes and run an automated regression suite to make sure that none of the other existing functionalities which were working before have been affected, or no new defects have been introduced. All right. All the structural methodologies can be used as black box testing as well. Tane, the structural testing methodologies are completely different. And black box testing methodologies are completely different. There is no relation between those. Uh, I mean, this multiple condition decision coverage is used mostly into white box, and for black box techniques there are various other techniques that are used: equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, decision table, uh, then cause effect, and something like that, cause effect graphing. But these, the white box testing techniques or structural testing techniques are mostly for um, so can you give any example wherein you have used yep, you can unmute yourself, Tane. Today I have changed the settings. You can unmute and speak so that everybody can listen. Tane, see, this is this true, false, and various techniques that you're talking about. These are anyways known by different names in black box design test design techniques. Multiple condition and decision coverage. It's more specific to white box testing, and it covers the code flow, or how the conditions or decisions are covered in the code. I mean, Tane, can you unmute yourself so that whatever you are saying, people can understand. Tane, do you have a mic? Okay, okay, all right. So what I was saying is, these techniques are more of for testing code structure and how the conditions and decisions, or line coverage are is covered. And the other thing, like true, false, or testing various outcomes in black box, you anyways have a lot of other techniques wherein you don't touch the code. These are more of these techniques are more of wherein you see inside the code and see how the code is being running, or being behaving different, how different modules are being interacting with each other. Okay. In black box technique, if you talk about, there are decision table testing, where which is kind of you test different decisions performing, like software, different software, what different decisions are being taken at different point of situation. So you create decision tables for that. You create various use cases, you create equivalence partitioning, you create boundary value analysis. So there are classification trees. So there are a lot of black box techniques as well that are specific to black box, and these techniques that I talked about are more of white box techniques that uh, are specifically for testing the code structure and communication and interaction between different modules. And if you have any other issues, maybe you can drop me an email. We can talk anytime. I'll share my mobile number with you. We can talk over this. All right. And guys, next time I would recommend everybody to get a microphone, or headset, so everybody can talk and listen. So it will be kind of more discussion based rather than just me talking. Okay. Skill testing. Skill testing. I'm hearing it for first time, Ramu. Skill testing. Smoke testing, I know, but skill testing, I think silk testing. Okay. All right. So silk testing, even it's some keyword that might be there in some books, but have never used it in my last 9-10 years of software testing career. But smoke testing is uh, the testing which came, this word smoke testing came from some mechanical background, wherein this was some suppose you are testing some device, and if you perform some basic test cases on it, or some basic scenarios, and if smoke comes out in some electronic device or some other device, so definitely that device is has some basic defects. So same word came to software testing, wherein you just execute very basic test cases to make sure that the build that you are getting from the developers has not is satisfying, so that you can go ahead with more detailed testing phase. Okay, so suppose you got a build, and you have a set of few test cases which are kind of must pass. Only then you can execute, only then you can proceed to different levels. So those kind of testing, that kind of testing, just to test the build, whether you can accept the build for future testing or for other cycles, that kind of testing is known as smoke testing. During regression testing, is this possible? We need to change test cases. Yes, Rahul, it's very much advisable to keep changing or modifying your test cases according to the changes in the software. Okay, because if your like there is a principle in I covered 7 testing principle, in which one says pesticide paradox. So if you are using same pesticide for 4 years, if a farmer is using same pesticide for 4-5 years, after 5 years, the bugs that used to be killed using by that pesticide won't be able to uh, kill now. So same case happens in the software testing. If you are using same test cases for n number of releases without modifying them, without doing changes, those test cases won't be able to find any new defects anymore. So if you have to find new defects, you have to keep updating your test cases, regression suites, according to the modifications or changes into your software. All right. Now the last thing is maintenance testing. So maintenance testing is the last, you can say it comes after all of the testing has been done and your software is already deployed, or your portal is already online. So this is done to make sure that like once you deploy the software, once you start using the software, it's never an end. You can say it's just a beginning of any software, because maintenance is always required for anything you see, whether it's a vehicle or it's a house. So you need to maintain, or you need to do maintenance for each and everything. Even for your health, you need to do regular checkups and maintenance. So once the software is deployed, you need to different upgrades need to be coming, or there might be defects which test team cannot catch when during the test phases. So if those defects are found in the maintenance phases, so those defects need to be fixed. Or there may be the chances that, like, you need to migrate your software from one hardware system to some newer hardware that is available, which is much faster and much convenient. So in all those cases, maintenance testing is required. All right, so basically what a software tester needs to do in maintenance phase, the main part is you need to test any changes or any defect fixes that are made into the software. Those need to be tested thoroughly, and you need to execute regression. So regression is the main second most important thing that you need to do in maintenance testing. So because the change made in the software when it's deployed may affect the existing functionality. All right, so regression testing needs to be done again and again. All right, so why is it required? So user may need some new features once because in live scenarios you can easily imagine, like if you consider an example of a banking website, when it started 4 years ago, when you started using uh, uh, this internet banking thing, the kind of features that you used to get at that time were the security was not very good. So over the period of time they have been improving over the security, over new features. A lot of new features came in, like you were not able to pay your credit card, pay the amount directly from your bank account to the credit card, which came later. So these are kind of enhancements that keep on coming into the software or into the portal. So these are the requirements that are incorporated after the software was deployed. So you need to test these requirements, as well as you need to test that these incorporating these requirements into the software did not uh, uh, add any more defects into the software. So that's why you need to execute regression testing. All right, then end user might want to migrate the software to the latest hardware platform or latest OS. Okay, so in the migration scenarios as well, you need to do maintenance testing. Okay, so once you are migrating from one hardware to other hardware, one OS to latest OS, then different databases, different version of databases, then it's kind of very much testing is required of all the changes, all the features, as well as regression, uh, uh, full regression testing of the software. So these are some scenarios wherein you can perform the maintenance testing. How, why, what are the major things you need to consider in the maintenance testing. All right, any questions? That's it. Okay, I regret. Okay, what's the difference between integration testing? Suraj already answered this. Okay, yes. So Nehal, you got the difference? Like regression retesting is kind of testing, um, executing the same test case against which you logged the defect, and making sure that it has been fixed. And regression testing is to execute uh, the previous test case, or the test cases surrounding to the defect that was fixed, and to make sure that none of the existing functionality has been affected by the defect fixes or by the code changes that were done to fix that defect. All right, then okay, so Ramu, there is a resource who were working in animation department would like to switch over to software testing career. There are project managers who would like to switch uh, to managing QA projects. What is roadmap they should follow to make a career in QA? What skills they must progress? If anyone has info, please do send site address, contact it. Okay, so this is more of I would say I'm more of a technical person, not much of management guy, and not much of a career counselor who can guide. All right, let me stop the recording. Oops, guys, I'm sorry. I think recording didn't go well.